Welcome. This is episode one of If Only Someone Had Seen This Coming. This is my new podcast. It's going to be a general podcast with specific episodes or like episodes around specific topics, I guess you could say. It's going to be a general podcast, but the majority of the episodes are going to be centered around specific topics and such like that. It's going to be a little play off of like how Joe Rogan is. Like I'm a really big fan of like the Joe Rogan experience and like everything because I'm a really big MMA fan. So, but like I really wanted a podcast that was kind of I guess kind of kind of built like his podcast. So like it's gonna be like to say like this is like a general podcast, like where it's gonna be about sports, it's gonna be about like politics, government, COVID, like everything, the Olympics, everything from like now until whenever and such like that. But it's going to be, but like it's just a general podcast, but like every episode is going to be about some specific topic or specific thing, like everything. Like, and I guess that's a nice segue to lead us into like what episode one is going to be about. Episode one is focused on the NBA. And one of the reasons why I decided to really focus on the NBA is because, in terms of the sports world right now, in terms of like championship sports, like it's the only thing really happening right now. So what a better, why not? Um, why not start with that? For episode one. But like episode one is going to be broken down into like three different segments. And seeing how, like I said, we're going to have specific topics based around specific episodes. Certain, like the system of how the episode is going to be broken down in terms of the segments will have certain like names, I guess you could say. Like say for this episode, the segments are broken down into like three different segments, and I call it three different quarters. Like to say, first quarter is going to be reflection on game five of the NBA Finals and the projections for game six of the NBA Finals. Second quarter is going to be Dame time and the process, just discussing like the trades and the off-season rumors of certain players, what I feel like certain players should move, where I feel certain teams who are in great positions to make movements and such like that. And in the fourth and in third quarter, I mean, my bad. First episode jitters. In the third quarter, I'm going to discuss LeBron versus Jordan legacy battle, and I'm also going to give you a little Space Jam, I guess, a little Space Jam review, and a crazy little conspiracy or a little thing I have where how Space Jam 2 kind of ties into the whole LeBron versus Jordan legacy battle. But like that's going to be in the third quarter. Like how I said, episode one is broken down into three different segments. Like I said, and like how for it being like a sports episode, like to say, if we have an episode about like the UFC, I probably will break it down like to say first round, second round, third round, or something like that. It's just a clever way to layer or name the segments to keep to keep it topic specific. Topic specific. But like when we go to like things about like government or like world news or whatever, I'll come up with some other different system for like that. But like that's much later on the road. We just have to focus on where we at right now. But that is a nice that is a nice little wrap up or a little introduction into what the podcast is, and just to give you a little idea of like what episode one is going to entail, like everything. I hope you enjoy it. Like I say, I'm a really big fan of podcasts. I watch many podcasts, not just the Joe Rogan Experience. One of the newest podcasts that I'm watching right now currently is Rory and Mal. Like they used to be on the Joe Budden podcast, but like now they, if you follow the Joe Budden podcast, you know the issues. But like now they have their own podcast and it's on Spotify. It's really lit. I fuck with them heavy. But like to say, like to say, I'm really inspired by a lot of different podcasts and such like that. So like, I really hope you guys enjoy it. I really do. And everything like that. I'm really down for the really down for like the content, and I love talking, and I'm really good at talking and such like that. So I feel like podcasting is just perfect for me. But let's get into first quarter. I'm trying to stay on time and everything with these segments and my points and such like that. But like, okay, in first quarter we have the reflection of Game 5 of the NBA Finals and my projections for Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Firstly, I want to start with to say, in terms of, there were two players, I just want to highlight two players on both teams that have been playing phenomenal. Devin Booker and for the Suns, and Giannis for Milwaukee. These two players, if for both teams, if anybody else other than these two players, like if Phoenix wins or if Milwaukee wins, and any other players win other than Finals MVP other than them, they were robbed. Like they were giving their heart and soul for their team in this finals, just to start off, just to be objective and start off, and like everything. But I think it's undeniable, like to say, Devin Booker, other than having one game where I think it was I can't remember which game it was. I think it was game three. Yeah, I believe it was game three where he had like some hamstring tightness. Yeah, he had hamstring tightness, and it was really affecting him through going into game three, and it was kind of questionable that he would even play going into like game three and such like that, and like the hamstring tightness. And Monty Williams sat him down when they were like for like the whole fourth quarter. But like other than game three, he's been having like just amazing, phenomenal games. Like it's like if the Suns win, like he is the Finals MVP, like no doubt, and like everything. And a little tip or a little thing that the Suns need to start doing, like they need, like I guess Devin Booker needs to start doing, like he needs to start, like he need for them to win game, for them what I feel like cost them game 5, and for what is going to help them to win game 6, Devin Booker needs to have at least one or two more assists. Like to say, no, he doesn't need to do like any much more, but like him having one or two more assists and his stat line wins them that game. Honestly, big facts. But like his teammates have to get open. Honest, like they can't just stand around and just watch him. Like they have to set a screen. Like run around, like get open, like do something, like like and speaking of that, speaking of teammates needing to like get open, Chris Paul is due for a big game. Game 1, he was closeout Chris. Game 1 of the finals, he was closeout Chris. Game 2 and 3 and 5, game 2, game 3 and game 5, he was just CP3. He was just regular old CP3, nothing special. It's whatever, he gonna give you point guard. He gonna give you, little 19 points or whatever, and like, at least 7, 8 assists. He gonna be point guard and like everything, just regular numbers. But in game 4, he was Cliff Paul. Like if you remember the State Farm commercials, like where the old State Farm commercials where he would be Chris Paul, and then he would have this doppelganger that's Cliff Paul, that's completely opposite than him. Game It would make sure it was, yes. Game 4, he was Cliff Paul. Cliff Paul was there. Like Cliff Paul showed up at that 10-point game. Like he cannot show up for game 6. We need closeout Chris. The only way the Suns win game 6 is if closeout Chris shows up. Like honestly, big facts and like everything. But and my biggest adjustment for Chris would be he has to defend because he's been getting torched in terms of like with the box on offense with him. He's been getting absolutely torched. Like he has to defend in game 6. Like this is his last game in the NBA. No, not like this is his last game in the finals. Like this is his last game in the end. He cannot keep getting torched like this on defense. But speaking of who was torching him, Giannis and his teammates. But more specifically, Giannis. Like, I was one of those people who is slow to admit it, but has to ultimately give Giannis his flowers. Giannis may low-key be the face of the NBA, honestly. Like, when you think about how dominant he is, but not just his dominance, his two-way dominance. Like Giannis could do things that Kevin Durant can't do in a way. Like Kevin Durant could shoot 3-pointers and like everything like that, but Kevin Durant could never win an MVP and a defensive player in the same year like how Giannis did it. Like that's one of the things that Giannis has. Like to say, Giannis is the most unstoppable two-way player playing in the NBA right now. Like two-way, like to say, offensive and defense. Like he's the most unstoppable two-way player playing in the NBA right now. And that is a big fact. And I'm one of those people. I was slow to admit it. But like when you look around at the NBA, like Giannis is just an example of how example of how like international big men have taken over the NBA. When you look at Giannis, when you look at Jokic, when you look at Embiid, Ayton, Rudy Gobert, the current defensive player of the year right now, like they're all international guys. Like Giannis is just an example of how like to say dudes like Dwight Howard and like I mean one of the guys who's a really current big man who's really really good is like Anthony Davis. Like but like to say other than like Anthony Davis, like most of the big men who are really in contention for MVP, defensive player of the year, like all NBA defensive, like they're like in terms of them 7-footers, they're usually international guys. Like Giannis is just an example of how like to say the intent like Shaq was probably the last guy who was the real big dominant big man who was like not an international big man. Just like that. But let's focus on I want to focus on the Suns because I got a little off track with that last point because I'm trying to manage these minutes and trying to go, but I think I'm doing really good for time because I'm 13 minutes in and I have like 20 minutes to cover for this first segment. So I think I'm doing well for that time. Suns should feel very proud of themselves. And I say that because Monty Williams had a speech to DeAndre Ayton. I can't remember if this was game 2 or this was game 2. He had a speech to DeAndre Ayton when he had his head down and he was disappointed. Even though they were winning, he wasn't playing well and he was very, very disappointed and he had his head down. And Monty Williams looked at him and told him, I know why you feel like this. Look at me. He said this. Look at me. I know why you feel like this. It's because you have high expectations for yourself. The Suns should feel very good about themselves for the fact that their first elimination game comes in game 6 of the NBA Finals. That's like that moment that Monty Williams had with DeAndre Ayton to say, y'all feel down right now, and the pressure you feel right now, the Suns need. They deserve to feel this. This is what happens when you have high expectations for yourself. You feel the pressure. it feels bad when you can't, when it feels like you're not getting there. Like that, like the Suns should feel very proud of how far they are right now. Like to say, they can win Game 6. It's going to be an uphill battle, but they could win Game 6. I don't see a way how they could stop Giannis, but winning a Game 6 after losing Game 5 is possible. The last team to have done it was the 2013 Miami Heat over the San Antonio Spurs, where, and that was the last team that lost Game 5 and then lost Game 5 to go down 3-2 in a series, but went on to win the title. And I remember that if you're an NBA fan, you remember that's the Game 6 Ray Allen corner three at the last second to steal Game 6, and then it was all she wrote after that, like everything. So like it it can happen. I'm not saying that I'm not gonna give them a high chance or anything like that. Like I am not like I'm gonna give them a low chance. If you were to ask me percentage wise, the Suns have 10 to 15% chance to win Game 6, honestly. But precedent shows you that if you win Game 6 with that 10 to 15% chance, that skyrockets to like 75 to 85% chance that you're gonna win Game 7. Like it's possible. They could win this series, but it starts in Game 6. They got to climb Mount Everest in Game 6, and Giannis up there waiting. But like how I say, to wrap up this first segment, I want to end with like to say that was my, I guess, my most confident point on the Suns. Now I want to end with my most confident point on the Bucks because they're actually up in the series. They are the projected favorites. Other than my uh, point to defend the Suns, Game 6 is about to be a coronation, or is expected to be a coronation in Milwaukee in Pfizer Forum. Like the Bucks have looked like the better team from every angle, every single game in this series, from every single angle. And the moment that Dario Saric tore his ACL, it did not get any better. Like like Giannis has been averaging 32 points and 32 points per game and 13 rebounds. These are like Shaq level numbers of dominance. Like 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 the Bucks team is it's hard to, when you think about like the players they have, like to say how humble Giannis is, how he's just that humble, just dominant force and such like that. And then when you think about how like he has like that Steph Curry effect, like to where like he's like that. He, in the press conferences, he's all super humble and he's chill and he's relaxed and everything. And then on the court, he's just gonna drop 40 on you, like he's just gonna drop 40 and 18 and like and just dunk on you every other play and like but like in the press conferences, oh yes, it was a very good game and like like that Steph Curry, like to say, like in the press conferences he's all nice and chill and humble, but in the court he's like he's just a killer on the court, like everything and such like that. Like I could see, and that's how was leading me to feel like Giannis with just how he's playing is just, I don't see a way that they can stop him. And then when you add in the fact of somebody like Chris Middleton, how could you not root for Chris Middleton? Honestly, like when you see somebody who was a second round pick and then is now averaging like 25 points per game in the finals and he was in the G League at one point. Like, how could you not root for him? Like, like it's hard to not go. It's hard to not root for the Bucks, honestly. Like, okay, and we're back with second quarter. Okay, second quarter is Dame time and the process. In second quarter, we're going to discuss all the trade and off-season rumors in the NBA that I've been, I guess, seeing on like different talk shows and different TV shows and things that I've thought about just when doing a little research just for like this segment and such. But the number one thing everybody wants to talk about right now in terms of trade is where is Dame going? Where does Dame want to go? Where like Dame don't want to be in Portland anymore and such like that. But like the most recent interview that came out, I believe it was yesterday. I guarantee. I don't know if it was yesterday. Yeah, it had to be in like yesterday, where Dame was at the Olympic. I think it was like an Olympic exhibition game or like just practicing or whatever. Where he was asked about the trade, about the rumor of him requesting a trade and everything, and he responded by saying like, nah, like he like like if he was saying it, it would have come from him and like everything like that. And he also talked about being unhappy and like how that being like seeming frustrated with always losing in the first round of the playoffs and everything. And it seems to me, just in my opinion, that with the whole Dame situation is more him just being unhappy, but not to the point of him ready to demand a trade. It seems more actually like him vying for more influence and like power in like the organization in terms of like controlling interest in terms of who like they go to trade for, like to say like him being like get Dame's approval before you like go to trade for somebody, like make sure it's somebody who Dame likes. Like he it seems like more something like that, like to say like, hey guys, like I'm gonna stay here, but like you guys gotta let me in on more like more of the decisions and like everything such like that. Like it seems more like that compared to him. Like, nah, I'm done with being there because he seems like he really wants to like, especially like do it the Giannis way. Like like do it with the team that drafted him and like everything. So like like he doesn't seem like but that's just from his most recent interview, like with the Team USA, where he was asked about like the trade rumor about him requesting a trade, and he was like, he denied the trade rumor and like everything, but he also said that he wasn't really happy in like with the situation of like them losing in the playoffs. So that is my opinion in of that situation compared to somebody like Ben Simmons and the process. Firstly, I want to say before I dive into Ben Simmons, and there's a reason why I use Dame Time and the process to name this segment, because Damian Lillard and Ben Simmons are both on the outside. People look at them in the exact same situation, but they're worlds apart. Like Dame wants to be in Portland, and he just doesn't like the fact that they keep losing. Ben Simmons seems like he is happy with them losing. He doesn't. Ben Simmons seems like he does not care. like that Ben Simmons and Damian Lillard, they're in two completely different worlds right now. And that's why I had to use both of them to highlight this segment to show how Dame's value is at its highest point as it's ever been in his career, in contrast to Ben Simmons, whose trade value is as low as it's ever been in his career. Like they are nowhere close to being in the same situation. Like trading Damian Lillard for the Portland Trail Blazers is akin to trading Joel Embiid for the 76ers. It's not trading Ben Simmons for the 76ers is like trading CJ McCollum for the Trailblazers. If you understand what I'm talking about, like to say, they're not just going to just give up Damian Lillard and just hope that whoever they brings in is just as like loves Portland just as much. Like no, they're like that's like Giannis. That's like Milwaukee giving up Giannis. Like they may not get somebody who loves being there that much. Like that's why I said, like, trust me when I tell you, like to say that the whole Dame getting traded is very unlikely, very very unlikely, very like it would take Dame, it would take a serious statement from Dame for them to really pull that like teams like Portland, they do not let go of players who like the city, who actually is like, yeah, I could live here. Yeah, it's not that bad. Like they love guys like Dame, like Giannis, who they love the city and like everything. But that's just in my opinion. Like to say, the Ben Simmons trade is much more likely than a Damian Lillard trade. Much more likely. But, and I'm not even going to go into the numbers. I had like numbers and like for like Dame and like Ben Simmons, like well, how like Ben Simmons was only averaging like what 12 points in the playoffs and 9 assists and 8 rebounds, and like how Dame was averaging 34 points, 10 assists in the playoffs, and like like the stark comparison to say Dame is at its highest, Dame's stock is at its highest value ever, and Ben's stock is as low its value ever. Like, but like that's why I said like to say a Ben Simmons trade is much more likely. But that's just my opinion. Take it however you feel like it, just like that. Okay, as we move on, like to say, as I was speaking about the process, and the segment is not just about the Ben Simmons. The segment is named Dame Time and the Process. I just had to highlight the Ben Simmons when I speak about trades to show you a comparison to say how easy it is for the Sixers to trade Ben Simmons is going to be almost as hard, as going to be nowhere as close to as hard as it is going to be for the Trailblazers to really trade Damian Lillard. Like it is not going to be as easy as it is the 76ers is to just give away Ben Simmons. Like but as I said, the process though. One thing about the process and why the 76ers should feel comfortable in trading Ben Simmons for whatever, trading for Ben Simmons for the best they can get for him. Not just whatever, but like the best they can get for him, is because the process worked. The process did exactly what it was meant to do. No, it did not win you a championship. No, they did not win a championship. But this season, they were the number one team in the East, 76ers. Ben Simmons finished second in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. Second only to Rudy Gobert, who won. Embiid finished second in MVP voting. Second only to Nikola Jokic, who won. And they did this in the exact same season. Not, oh, they did this, he did this last season, and then in the exact same season, your two star players both almost won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Like, people who look at the process and say, oh, the process is a failure because they didn't win a champ. Like, did you see the players the process turned these dudes into? Like, the process worked. Like, yes, it may not have turned it into a championship, but you want to know another team that had great players, superstar level players, and they did not win a championship, and the team was broken up? The Oklahoma City Thunder, Big Three, with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant. They were all drafted, played well, turned into superstars, never won a championship, and the team was broken up. This happens. But look at the superstars they turned into. Look at the individual superstars that Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant turned into. They were all drafted by one team, nurtured together, grew together, and then went their own ways and like had success. Like this happens. Like this may be the end of the road for the process. The same way how at a certain point for OKC it was the end of the road. But let's leave that over because deeper into segment two, and what I want to talk about. I really want to talk about Kawhi. You see how I'm anxious to talk about Kawhi. I really want to talk about Kawhi, but like I want to go into this part of segment two. This part of segment two is more just trade and off-season rumors in the NBA, and like what I think could happen in terms of mobility, what could happen before the draft, and how crazy things could get as soon as the NBA Finals ends. But I'm about to dive into that, and this is about to be the last. I think we're good for time. Let me see how much points we have. We have 3 points left. Oh, we're good for time. I gotta max. I gotta work these like 2 minutes. Okay, perfect. But like, okay. Firstly, I want to speak on Kawhi's decision before I get into like all the other player mobility and all the who could trade for who and this and this and that and whatever. I want to talk about Kawhi because Kawhi's decision is a very big decision, and it's going to speak deeper into his legacy in terms of Kawhi's decision to opt in or opt out may speak on how he views his own longevity. If he chooses to opt in, I assume it means he expects an immediate extension from the Clippers and doesn't want to risk not securing a long-term deal from like another team in free agency. However, if he opts out, it may indicate he expects to be back sooner than like other teams expected. Maybe his surgery wasn't that invasive to where like he could be back way sooner than like people expecting and like everything. And maybe he knows something that teams don't know if he opts that, but this is all if he opts out. Maybe he knows, like they say, oh, I'm much healthier than teams expect. So like maybe he's betting on himself if he opts out to say, I could get another max deal from another team. Like maybe he knows, like they say, I'm much healthier than people think. And Kawhi is one of those guys where only Kawhi knows what he's going to do. Like that's why I said, like to say, Kawhi's decision, whether he opts in or opts out, may speak very heavily to how he views his longevity. To say whether he thinks it's safer to just take the best long-term deal with the Clippers, who could give him the most money, or to bet on himself and be like, nah, I could do this somewhere else. I don't really need you guys. But like that's all I really want to say on Kawhi, because with Kawhi's decision, he has a player option and it's a very simple decision. He either opted in or opted out, and so it's very simple. So that's not it's not a lot of moving pieces. But now we get into the Mad Max section of segment two, the Wild West segment, like the Wild West section, where what could happen right before the draft. What could happen? Anything, and this is why I say anything is possible right before the draft. Anything is possible because of the type of draft this is. Like to say, every team is in a position where they're looking at this finals and looking at the Bucks and looking at the Suns and thinking how the Bucks haven't won a finals in 50 years, and seeing them one game away and saying that could be my franchise that hasn't won a finals in whatever 20, 30, whatever number of years. All the small franchises are looking at their teams being like, are we a couple trades and a couple players away? And such, like the Bucks, how the Bucks were when they drafted Giannis, and like, are we a Giannis away and such like that? So anything is possible before the draft. You never know. But if you want to know some teams to look out for, honestly, after the finals ends, some teams to really look out for to make some serious moves, the Orlando Magic and the Golden State Warriors. Mainly because they both have two lottery picks, with Orlando having two picks in the first 10 picks. Like, really looking at Orlando as like one of those sleeper teams that come out of nowhere and like make a trade for one of those big guys, because they have, like, I think they have the fourth pick and the eighth pick. Those are two valuable picks. Like valuable pick. Like, they could easily make a move. But Golden State is in a good position. Very, very good position overall, because Golden State is like a Golden State is like a one-stop shop. Like, to say, if you what do you need? Like, Golden State has two lottery picks. I think they have the seventh pick and the 14th pick. Two lottery picks. Okay, so you want picks? They have picks. You want valuable players on long-term contracts? They got valuable players on long-term contracts. Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green. Valuable players on long-term contracts. Like, it's whatever you need. And Steph Curry is a superstar. He could play with anybody. Whoever they trade, the Golden State trade for, Steph Curry is not going to have a problem playing with them. And that's a big, big advantage to why I think Golden State is going to be another one of my sleeper picks, to where they have picks, they have valuable contracts, and they are looking to make a move with Clay coming back. Like, Golden State is enough. That's why I say, looking at Golden State and Orlando, they are in good positions in terms of where their picks are to make some big moves as soon as the finals ends, in terms of making moves before the draft. On one of my deep sleepers. Because I have like about 30 seconds left. My deep sleeper is like the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Oklahoma City Thunder have three picks in the first round of this draft, and they have 10 picks in the neck between 2022 and 2025. I expect them to listen to any and all offers to build around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And we're back with the third quarter. Okay. In the third quarter, we're going to discuss LeBron versus Jordan legacy battle. And this is all spurred on the LeBron Jordan talk, based on the new Space Jam 2 coming out, and like that bringing up people saying, "Oh, which one is better? Is it the one with Michael Jordan better, or is it the one with LeBron? Is it better?" And then that spurring up the whole Michael Jordan LeBron debate again. And I feel like that's one of the things. I think like that's one of the reasons why they chose LeBron for Space Jam 2. Like, to say, to really dive headfirst into, people always are going to compare Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Let's give them something. Let's give them something. Let's give them a real reason to really always compare it, and like everything. But that's just my opinion. You're gonna hear many conspiracy theories and such as we go through like different segments of the podcast and such like that. But like, for this segment, we're just gonna compare LeBron and Michael Jordan from like a surface level. We're not gonna dive into all the nitty gritty of this and that and all that. I mean, I have a whole bunch of stats in front of me, which I'm going to use as points of reference and everything as I build my points and such like that. But like, like, just play, LeBron and Michael Jordan comparisons with their playoff stats and like, overall playoff numbers numbers, and then overall regular season stats, overall regular season numbers, number of championships, and like accolades between the two. We're gonna go through all of that. We're gonna go through all of that and such like that. But like this is going to be very, very surface level. Very, very surface level. This is literally just going to be about Michael Jordan and LeBron James from the standpoint of which I could tie it in to Space Jam 2 and Space Jam 1, such like that. I have a very interesting way how I'm going to tie it in at the end to where like the Space Jam 2, the difference between Space Jam 2 and Space Jam 1 is like the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. But um, I'm gonna tie it all in at the end. I don't want to spoil it and like everything like that. But just this is this is gonna be the last segment of like episode 1. So I wanna, I definitely saved this one for last for a reason. But in terms of like this, when you compare LeBron James and Michael Jordan, it's always the same two arguments. It's always the same two arguments. Okay, for LeBron James, the longevity. It's always the same thing. No one has ever done this for this long. No one has ever had this level of sustainable greatness for this long. It's LeBron's MO. Like, he's the ultimate Iron Man. Like he been available longer than a lot of guys in terms of putting up points, putting up rebounds, overall, like, like stats, like just he did it longer than almost all the guys in that top five list, and he gonna climb up there. And I believe by the end of his career, he probably gonna have number one or two for like almost all the stats and like everything. I could see that. LeBron is one of those type of dudes, and like everything like that. But everybody knows like what Michael Jordan has. Like to say, with Michael Jordan, that's you get that unrelenting desire to win. Like to say, that guy who he may have had some flame outs in the playoffs and such like that in lower rounds of the playoffs, like to say in the first round of the playoffs, second round of the playoffs, he may have had some flame outs. He even got swept a couple times and such like that. But Michael Jordan is that dude who every single time he made it to the big time, to the finals, he didn't lose. 6-0. If you imagine the betting back in the day for like Michael Jordan after he won like five championships, and it was almost like a solidified thing to say, if this dude make it to the finals, he is not going to lose. Like that's what Michael Jordan, and that's how Michael Jordan always has been the GOAT for so long and like everything like that. Because like Michael Jordan is like the Tom Brady of like the NBA. Like to say, like this dude is synonymous with winning championships. Like that is what he is known for, like in his sport. Like he is the guy who when you think about, like to say, I mean, of this modern era, like when you think about like of the NBA, like everybody knows is Bill Russell. Like Bill Russell is like the 11-time champion, like player coach champion, and like there's nobody like Bill Russell. Like it's different. Like, but when you think about like in terms of like this modern era of like televised basketball, Michael Jordan was it. Michael Jordan was that dude who, like to say, when you wanted to know who was that dude who when he got to the big time, he didn't lose. Michael Jordan. He may have lost in the first round of the playoffs and other rounds, but like when he got to the finals, he was 6-0. He was undefeated. Like, like that's and that's the whole argument between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, to where it's the it's the Iron Man statistical Mount Rushmore player, and they're both Mount Rushmore guys and such like that. But like to say, LeBron James is going to go down for like assists, rebounds, points, like almost all statistical categories. He's going to go down top three in almost every category by the time he ends his career and such like that. And to keep it real, like that's something Michael Jordan, I mean, he hasn't really done. Like to say, when you compare Michael Jordan's numbers, like to say overall, just let's just look at total, like we just let's just look at like total overall, like just regular season, just for points right now, just as it stands, like right now. LeBron is like 3,000 more points than him, like 3,000 more rebounds, like 4,000 more assists. Like they're about the same in terms. The Michael Jordan has him actually edged in steals, and like but LeBron in terms of blocks is about 100 more. Like but he has way more turnovers than Michael Jordan though in terms of regular season. So like to say is way much more. So like to say in terms of that. But in terms of minutes played, like LeBron has almost 9,000 more minutes played than Michael Jordan. Like and that's just the regular season. We haven't even like looked in terms of like just overall like playoff stats and like everything, like to say, like when you compare stats and such like that, like to say total stats, like not just averages. When you compare total stats, like it's no question, like it's LeBron, because like LeBron has played longer and he has had more time to accumulate more stats, like so that's, but like that's the LeBron side of the argument. Let's get to the Michael Jordan side of the argument. The Michael Jordan side of the argument looks like what I was saying before. 6-0 in the finals. His 6 championships to LeBron's 4 championships. His 5 MVPs to LeBron's 4 MVPs. His 6 finals MVPs to LeBron's 4 finals MVPs. LeBron has more all NBA teams than Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan had more all defensive teams than him. LeBron had more all stars, but LeBron played in more seasons, so like it makes sense. But do you know what's one of the truest categories in terms of accolades and accomplishments that really shows you how different Michael Jordan was from LeBron James in terms of like a regular season, or just not even regular season, but like just a, but like in terms of this is like a regular season award from a regular season perspective. Michael Jordan's 10 scoring championships, 10 scoring titles, I mean, 10 scoring titles to LeBron's one. To win the scoring title means you were the highest scoring player, and like you had the high, like, you scored the most points in the league that season, like everything like that. LeBron James did that one time. Michael Jordan did that 10 times. That speaks volumes in terms of like the type of player Michael Jordan was compared to the type of player LeBron James is. And like how I said, you like to say, this is just a surface level argument. Like we're not diving into the deep. Like I'm not some LeBron fan or some Michael Jordan stan, or like no. This is just a surface level argument to build up to my bigger point about Space Jam 2. But this is just a very uh I guess like just a overview of like the comparison to like feed off of like, okay, well, people want to talk about the comparison, let's compare and such like that. But like when you go back and you look, as I've gone over, like, very crucial points for LeBron, very crucial points for Michael Jordan. They're both like two different tasting wines that are both exquisite, even though they taste different. Two completely different tasting wines, but they're both like exquisite. Like even like from before you even like taste it, like you as when it's in the glass and you twirl it just to smell, and like before you even like taste, and like like the same when you could smell like it's. Mm, and so, like exquisite and such like that. That's what like Michael Jordan and LeBron James are like. They're two completely different type of wines, but like they're both exquisite and such like that. Like they say, but and that's why they can never eclipse each other. And like that's why you see how people always try to eclipse. Oh, Michael Jordan eclipsed LeBron James, or like LeBron James eclipsed Michael Jordan, or like that can't happen. Like when you dwell in two different spaces, you can't eclipse each other. Like Kobe can't eclipse LeBron, or like LeBron can't eclipse Kobe. They play two completely different. Like they can't like Steph Curry can't eclipse LeBron James. They don't do the same thing. Like that's why Michael Jordan can't eclipse LeBron. Like I'm not Michael Jordan. I mean, that's why LeBron can't like eclipse Michael Jordan, because like he they don't do the same thing. They do completely different things. Like Michael Jordan was like trying to be like the assassin of the league. Like if I go up against you in the finals, I'm Mike Tyson. Like you in for a bad day. LeBron James is trying to be like, my name gonna be. I may not win all the championships, but my name gonna be on almost every record, top five in almost every record. Like they two completely different animals, man. But they both will hunt you down. It is what it is. But like I always said, like to say, the greatest takeaway that I got while I was just looking at all these different things and such about like Michael Jordan and LeBron James and such like that. It's so interesting how when you look back at Space Jam 1 and Space Jam 2, the difference between like how Space Jam 1 was more about Michael Jordan coming back and him being like Michael again, and like more centered around just him and only him, and like like just him and his journey, and like like more focused on him being great and amazing and perfect. But like with Space Jam 2, it's more focused on LeBron James and his family and his son, and about like him, like like getting the tunes back together, and like like it's more focused about like a team building type of aspect, and it's more, and like that is something like a subtle low key way of like how I'm going to wrap up this point in terms of like to say that's something I took from like watching Space Jam 2 and seeing all the debates of like the LeBron versus Michael back and forth and back and forth and such like that, to say if you want to really understand the difference between the LeBron and Michael debate, watch Space Jam 1, then watch Space Jam 2, and that's the difference. The how the Space Jam 1 and Space Jam 2 is like two completely different movies telling you two completely different stories. That's the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. They're not telling you the same story. Michael Jordan is not coming here telling you I'm trying to be the ultimate team player, the ultimate guy who like he had top 3 in every statistical category, and he played more minutes than anybody in like NBA. Like he's not trying to be that guy. Just like LeBron James is not trying to be that guy who's like, win 10 scoring championship, 10 scoring titles, I mean, like to say like that. They're not the same guy. And it's the same way when you watch the differences in the movies and everything like that, it's very interesting. Something I saw like what Shannon Sharp said on like Undisputed. He said LeBron James in Space Jam 2 is more about him in and like his son, and like him realizing like to say he can't do it all on himself, and like he can't just force people to be him, and he can't just force the team to play like him, and everybody just can't be like him. It's more about like to say it was more of a journey about LeBron and the others around him, and like everything compared to like with Space Jam 1 with Michael Jordan, where it was just like it was Michael, and like, but it was like it was more about like Michael was the star, like nobody else was the star. Like in Space Jam 2, LeBron's son is as big of a star as he is in the movie, and like to say in Space Jam 1, like Michael was the star, like it was Michael, like such like that. Like that's why I like to, like it's a different type of feel, but that same dynamic is the same difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. if you understand what I'm talking. But watch the movie and you'll know what I'm talking about and such like that. But like it's just to highlight the difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan legacy based on Space Jam, and to drop a little Space Jam too. Like they'll go watch that, check it out, make sure to check it out. It's the end of first episode of oh damn, I gotta get used to this new name. Okay. If only someone had seen this coming. Episode 1.